What's going on, everybody? It's Friday, July the 29th, 2022. Let's try it again. Friday, July the 29th, 2022. 2:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. Thought I would jump on and do a Q&A today as we move into the weekend. All right. What's going on, everybody? Good to see you all. Hope you are all doing well. What do you guys want to talk about? It is an all Q&A today. Whatever you want to talk about, fire those questions to me. Obviously, super chat questions will take priority for obvious reasons. I always mention that, just in case somebody somewhere out there is like, why? But I think it's pretty self-explanatory as to why. But fire any questions you have, non-super chats, super chats, whatever you want to get in here, we will get to it. You want to talk Halloween? We can talk Halloween. You want to talk, I don't know, pick up sex with your butt cheeks? We can talk pick up sex with your butt cheeks. Whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about it. Just letting you know. Mike Johnson, good afternoon, Dave. Good afternoon, Mike. Hope you are doing well. But Dave... yes. The last weekend of July. It is a long weekend here in Canada. We have a holiday on Monday. It is the last weekend of July, and we move into August. The summer is halfway over. And then my favorite time of year comes upon us, which of course is fall, autumn. That's my favorite time of year, is fall. Not because of Halloween. Halloween's just a bonus. That's nice. But Halloween could not happen in the fall, and autumn would still be my favorite time of year. I love the cool, crisp sort of air, the cool, crisp kind of days. I mean, if you live where I live, or in the Midwest or the Northeast of the United States, you get these kinds of autumns. If you live in Florida, it is what it is. But I really like autumn because of, the cool, crisp kind of days. You just go outside in a pair of jeans and a hoodie or something. And there's that, that campfire kind of smell in the air, the wind blowing the trees. And love it. Love it. Has always been my favorite time of year. And then, of course, you have Halloween in there, and that's cool. But Halloween could happen on April the 15th, and fall would still be my favorite time of year, because of the atmosphere, the mood and atmosphere. There's things about every season I like, but fall is definitely my favorite. George Stigal sends in $20. Very generous of you. Thank you, George. Says, hi, Dave. Just wanted to say I've been watching since early 2018. Favorite YouTube channel. Well, thank you very much, George. I appreciate that. Thank you for all of the hours of entertainment. Can I get a but Dave? Have a great weekend. George! But Dave. There you go, my man. And you have yourself a great weekend as well. Yeah. It's hard to believe, that the amount of content that, and I'm not even like, it pales in comparison to some of the other stuff that some of the other people are doing. But it's been a fun ride. To talk about, Halloween and movies and horror and all that kind of stuff. And I appreciate you tuning in, man. I really, really do. WLJJ Movie Review says, hi, Dave. How you doing, buddy? Doing pretty good, my man. Doing pretty good. I was watching It's Me, Billy again, and I was like, wow, it really does feel like a... I think you meant sequel to the original Black Christmas. Are you talk texting? Because sometimes that happens, right? It changes fucking words around. Sequel to the original Black Christmas. Well, thank you, WLJJ Movie Reviews. I appreciate that very much. I am glad that you rewatched it. I'm glad that it has some rewatch value for you. That's always good. We worked really hard to create a, professional looking, feeling, sounding film that was a spiritual sequel to the original. I mean, obviously it can't be, the actual sequel because obviously we don't own the IP. But one of the cool things about, and maybe it's because Black Christmas is by and large, again, in comparison to some of the other horror properties, it's kind of down on the totem pole. But I think because of that, and because there's not really any, I don't even think, I mean, there might be a couple of like home movie fan films perhaps, but, there's really nothing out there in terms of fan films. There's no series per se, right? There's no sequels, right? So all you got was the original and 2 crappy remakes. So there really isn't a lot to grab onto when it comes to Black Christmas. So when we came along and we presented what we did in the ways that we did, right? A professional, independent short film, it really, I think, surprised a lot of people, not just in sort of the quality, yes, but in terms of how much it feels like a sequel to the original. And that was deliberate. I mean, it was one of the big things that we talked about, right? Was, we wanted to make sure that it felt like it's that same universe. Black Christmas isn't Halloween. It's not Friday the 13th. It's not blood, guts, and gore, right? It's more of that, that mood and suspense, that more of that pensive kind of approach to storytelling. So that's what we did. So it's really cool when people reach out to me and say, hey dude, saw your movie for the first time, or hey dude, rewatched it, thought it was great, really, really cool. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm glad you picked up on the fact that it does feel, like it lives in that same world, because obviously that was the intention. Thank you very much, buddy. Really appreciate it. Jesus Freak Bobby Reeves sends in $1.99. Thank you, buddy. Says, for all my Halloween loving peeps. There you go, folks. There you go. Thank you, Bobby. Eddie Chase sends in $2, says, N's got standing ovation at screening. Thoughts? Okay. Let's dive into this, shall we? Okay, so I wasn't there. Let me just talk about what I sort of give you some insight. Do I believe that the Halloween Ends screening from the other day got a standing ovation? No, I don't. Can I be proven wrong? 100%. I'm just telling you what I believe, right? I know this comes from somebody on Reddit saying that they were there, or they heard somebody that was there, or whatever the case is, and it got a standing ovation. Okay, maybe it did. I wasn't there. And maybe some of you might be thinking it's very arrogant of me to take a position as no. But the reason why I take that position, and I'm ready to be proven wrong, although it would be difficult to be probably proven wrong unless, 35 people come forward saying, no, I was one of the ones going, woo, yeah. So I've been to 2 test screenings in my life, and one of them was for a Hollywood film. One of them was for an independent film. And there's a difference between a test screening and a focus group, right? So test screenings is where sometimes you know what you're going to watch, sometimes you don't. And you watch the movie, and at the end of the movie, you fill out a form, and on that form you rate the film out of 10 and your experience and what you liked, it didn't like, fair, all that kind of stuff, right? And they're usually handing that out to you at the end of the screening. A focus group is different, where you essentially know the movie you're going to watch. The director is there, maybe the writer and producers are there. You stay after the movie is done. You talk to them on stage. You tell them what you like, all that kind of stuff. So that's different. Similar, but different. I spoke to somebody recently who has been to many test screenings of Hollywood films in their life. It's part of their job. And they said to me, I find it very difficult to believe. Nobody gives standing ovations at test screenings. Now, that doesn't mean absolutely 100% that the Halloween Ends screening had no standing ovation. But what is a standing ovation? Was it that 3 people stood up and went like this? Well, I guess technically that's a standing ovation. Or was it the entire auditorium that stood up and gave, a 30-second standing ovation or whatever it is, right? Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a couple of people that were overzealous and then that really liked the film that stood up and went like this? Maybe. But that's not a standing ovation. That's a couple of, Bob, Tom, and Jim who stood up and, and then somebody was like, oh, wow, hey, it got a standing ovation. And they take to Reddit. There's no nuance, right? It's just Halloween Ends got a standing ovation. I find it difficult to believe because very rarely do movies get standing ovations, number one, unless you're a Marvel movie and you're in a bunch of fucking 25-year-olds in there going, that would piss me off, by the way, with all due respect. Maybe, but a Halloween test screening, I find it difficult to believe. I do. And there's no sort of, I'm not hearing anything else about it. Again, let me say, I wasn't there. Maybe the entire auditorium at the end of the film, when the credits were rolling, dun, 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 everyone was going, oh my God, that was just incredible. Oh, wow. Maybe. But I think the probability is low. I think either somebody is lying or somebody is interpreting a few people standing up going, woo, that was awesome, dude. Yeah, as a standing ovation. That is my view. So no, I do not believe Halloween Ends got a standing ovation in the ways that, Elvis got a 12-minute standing ovation at cons. Do you know what I mean? No, I don't believe it. But I wasn't there. I am open to being proven wrong. If 10 people can come forward or somebody can come forward and say, no, listen, dude, I was there and the whole auditorium was up doing this and it was incredible. Everybody just loved it. Oh, okay. All right. I'll concede. But I find it difficult to believe with Halloween Ends. I'm just saying. But that's me. But thank you very much for your super chat. I do appreciate it. Anthony Bazzuto sends in $1.99, says, for the channel, Dave, keep rolling. Salute. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Matthew Farisi sends in $4.99, says, Dave, will you be watching Prey? I'm excited for it. I don't know. Is it streaming? Where is it playing? It's Hulu, right? I think it's Hulu. We don't get Hulu here in Canada. Maybe I can rent it off YouTube or something. I might. I don't know. I'll probably catch it when it winds up on maybe Prime for free, or maybe it is on Prime. I'm not sure. I don't really care about the Predator movies, to be honest with you. I really don't. I just think that first movie, again, I understand the reviews it's getting, and it's good. I saw the trailer and I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's the kind of movie where I'm like, I'm just kind of, it's like Batman. I still haven't seen the Batman because I'm just like, I'll see it. Like, I'm Batman out. And all this news now, Ben Affleck's going to be Batman and Aquaman too. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I am so Batmaned out. I just don't care. And I like Batman. You know me. I know what you might be thinking. But Dave, you're not a superhero guy. And that's fair. You could say, Dave, you're not a superhero guy. You're not into the bat. That's totally fair. Totally fair to say that. But I do like Batman. And I like Superman. And I like Spider-Man. I like your staples. But I'm just like, oh man, like everything. We're so saturated with this stuff now. Not that we're saturated with Predator movies. I don't mean that. But we just had one. We had What's-His-Face's one a couple years ago that didn't do well. And then, the Predators there from a few years, well, more than a few years back there, with Adrian Brody, and that didn't really do much. And then, it's just like, I don't know, they're always trying to reinvent Predator. And maybe they've done that with this movie, Prey. Maybe they have. But to answer your question, I will see it, but I'm in no rush to see it. Let's put it that way. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. Andrew Stevens sends in $10. Thank you, Andrew, and says, for Halloween Ends, where everyone dies. I'm kidding, for the channel. Can you imagine everyone dies? Like even Michael dies? Like everyone. The entire town of Haddonfield is like Hawkins in Stranger Things. Just everything just explodes. Everyone's dead. Everything. It's all, it's it. It's done. 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 Can you imagine? That'd be awful. Scott McFarlane says, hi, Dave. Without using the words, sometimes you just got to go with it. What's your thoughts on a 60-plus-year-old grandmother knocking 7 shades of shit out of an inhumanly strong psycho knife-wielding maniac? To be honest with you, Scott, I don't really give it much thought. Probably because, it's a movie. It's a Halloween movie. And I think today audiences are, and I understand why, we're hypersensitive to absolute pure realism. And sometimes we have to suspend our disbelief and just enjoy the movie. I understand you could say, well, hang on a second. He could take out, 10 firefighters and he could beat up them up. He can't take out Laurie Strode. I'm okay with Laurie Strode taking out Michael Myers as long as it's difficult for her to do so. See, listen, by sheer fact of the story, she has to put up a fight. She is the main protagonist. So the main protagonist is always going to put up a fight. Those mob people and the firefighters, those are expendables, right? Those are, like when you're playing a video game, those are like, if you're playing Super Mario, I'm dating myself. If you're playing Super Mario Brothers, what's that? Anyway, if you're playing Super Mario, right? And the little mushroom guys, bloop, bloop, they're coming along, or the little turtles or whatever, the shells. That's what the firefighters are. They're just there to be killed, right? The main protagonist, no matter how young or old, will always put up a better fight just by sheer fact that they are the protagonist. Now, to your point, Laurie Strode is 60. Michael is 60, 1 or 2, whatever, right? Well, I guess he's 65 because it's 4 years later. I would say that as long as the protagonist faces resistance, right? Faces some sort of adversity, then I'm okay, right? She gets, as we see, she gets thrown across the kitchen counter, right? That's good. We should see that. Right? We don't want Laurie to have what is commonly referred to as, plot armor, right? Where she's just, walking around, nothing's phasing her. No, we should see her cut. We should see her bloodied. We should see her facing resistance. We should see her, struggling and fighting and this kind of stuff. That's important. We need to see that. But at the end of the day, I don't know if she's going to win. I have no idea. But I'm just saying at the end of the day, like in the film's past, right? Or pick your film, whether it's Nancy from Elm Street or, whatever, right? Sydney from Scream, whatever. At the end of the day, they have to come out on top. They're the protagonist. That's just how these stories go. So I'm okay. I'm okay with a 60-year-old Laurie winning if she does. And I don't know if she does. I sincerely don't know. But if she does winning, I'm okay with that. As long as we see her face adversity and resistance and struggle to get to that point. Because she has to, right? She has to. It's Michael Myers. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Those are my thoughts on that. Cody Vignal, is that how you say that? Sends in $5, says, Dave, you're the voice man. That's true. Let's hear your best trailer voiceover for the full-length Ends trailer. Ad-lib. Thanks, man. Huge fan. Well, to be honest with you, Cody, I don't do the trailer voice here on the show. And the reason for that is because it's something that I've been saying this for months. For years. It's an effect that I it's like a magic trick, right? I don't ever like to let sort of the cat out of the bag in terms of the trailer voice, because it's one of the voices I do. There's a YouTube video on my channel where I do show you me doing it in real time, so it's me. I'm just spitballing a bunch of trailer phrases without any sort of context. And so you can see it's me in real time. That is on my channel. If you YouTube Dave McRae trailer voice, you will see me. I'm in my hallway. It's from a couple years ago now, maybe 2018 even. Maybe it's like 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm in my hallway and I've got the phone on. I'm just, saying things like, in a world and all that kind of stuff. And because I was getting quite a few messages from people saying that I don't believe that's you. It doesn't sound anything like you. And I'm like, well, I know it doesn't sound anything like me. That's the trick. That's the magic, right? And it is me. There's no process. Well, there's processing in terms of EQing, right? In post-production, when I do a movie trailer or when I do a promo, the audio engineers will always, EQ my voice, add a bit of filler and, to fill me out. But they do that with all of the trailer voiceover guys. What is not done is in terms of pitch. They don't pitch me lower. So that is actually me going that low and being that dark and being that gravelly. That really is me getting down there. But because I don't look like somebody that would sound like that, and I don't talk like that normally, years ago, I always made a point to never do it publicly, really. And this, not that people are asking me to do it publicly, but this would be like a public sort of forum, because I like sort of the magic trick. I remember when I was hired to do some promos for The Sopranos on, this is like going back years, and they hired me based on my demo. Right? Well, you can't see my face based on my demo. So, and on my demo, I had a few, of that movie trailer voice spots. So I go in and the guy comes out and he's like, Dave McRae? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I was expecting somebody to look different. I was like, you were expecting me to be like, 6'5", 250 pounds, or, something like that. He's like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Anyways, I get into the studio and they see me do it. And they're like, wow, okay, really cool. So, it's just something that I don't want to do here on the show. It's just a thing. It's a thing that I like to, it kind of ruins the illusion a bit. However, like I said, because I was getting some DMs from people saying, yeah, I don't believe you. I did a couple of years ago upload a video, YouTube Dave McRae trailer voice, and I think it's just me on the thumbnail, and it will pop up and you will see me doing it. So, but yeah, no, I always like to kind of keep the illusion going, keep the effect going, because it's fun. I get a real kick of posting a promo I've done or a trailer I've done, and they're like, that's you? And I'm like, that's me. Like, they did nothing. The only thing the audio engineer would have done was to add some EQ and a bit of processing to fill me out. But in terms of pitch and tone and all that kind of stuff, no, they don't touch that stuff. That's all me, man. That's all me. But I appreciate the super chat nonetheless, my pal. I appreciate it. Let's see here. What is this? Burger buns. I have no idea what this is. Something burger buns. Sends in $5. Says, what ways would you change Halloween 2 1981 to make it an even better sequel? Hope you are having a good Friday and have a great weekend. Well, you know what, burger buns? Speaking of something else speaking of things on my channel, I just did a video about a week or so ago talking about sort of an alternate version of Halloween 2. You might want to check it out. It's from, like a week or so ago, I think it is. Check that out. But because you said in the super chat, let me just say that basically what that video is about me talking about how I really liked what they did with the flashback in Halloween Kills. And I like, the logistics and the set decoration, the set design and everything I thought was so well done that it made me want to see an entire sequel in that era. And I often wondered what would be really cool is that, since Halloween 2 in this new timeline is negated anyway, it doesn't exist in this new timeline, maybe something cool would have been, instead of starting with Halloween 2018, you start with an alternate version of Halloween 2 set in 1978, picking up where the first one left off. But instead of going this way like we did in 1981, we go this way in 2018, like whatever it would have been, right? So it would have been Halloween 2 set in 1978, but it goes in a different direction. You know what I mean? And I talk about all the nitty gritty details in that video. So check it out if you haven't seen it, because I think that would be cool. That would be my answer off the top of my head. That would be my answer to your question. And I adore Halloween 2 from 1981. I don't think it's as good as the original. I think it's far inferior, but it's my favorite sequel. And unless Halloween Ends turns out to be an epic, fucking phenomenal piece of cinematic history, the series to me is really Halloween 1 and 2, and that's where it ends. And if I'm feeling, generous, then I will go 1, 2, 4, and 4 is the ending of the franchise to me. So Halloween 2, actually, this might make a good video. Halloween 2 is sort of the happy ending, and Halloween 4 is like the darker ending. I think I might do a video on that. That might be good. Let me write this down before I forget. It might be good to do a video on that. Yeah, answer and 4. Yeah, I'll know what that is. Sometimes I get inspired by doing these Q&As. But thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jose Reyes sends in $4.99, says, D, where would you rank Colonel Cochran's Sam Hain speech in the Halloween franchise? In the Halloween franchise? Well, I think it's up there. I think it's up there. I think, the best, obviously, you got to go classic, right? You got to go Loomis in part 1 for sure. But I would definitely say that Cochran's speech is up there. Yeah, maybe I'd go Loomis's speech, both of Loomis's speeches. So you have, I met this 6-year-old child, this blank, pale, emotionless face, that speech. And then you have the speech when he's by the Myers house. I watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this, inhumanly patient. Death has come to your Lord. There's that one too, which is great. And then, of course, there's I'm 6 bodies, chef. You got to put the Loomis speeches, like maybe Cochran's speech is number 5, maybe, or something. Top 5 at number 5, maybe. I got to listen to it again. To be fair, I haven't watched 3 in a while, but it's up there. It's up there, my man. It's up there. Charles Adkins says, Jimmy Champagne and Wham is the only honest channels I'll watch for all updates in the movie universe. Oh, Dave McRae, Jimmy Champagne, and Wham. I think that's what you're saying. You're including me in that as well, I think is what you're saying. Yeah, I love those guys. I think that Jimmy Champagne and the Wham, I love those guys. I do. I think they're great because everybody's different. Everybody's got different personalities, and strengths and weaknesses and things like that. I mean, my strength might be the fact that, and I don't know, I'm just saying, I've spent 20 years working in the entertainment industry. And so I tend to come at it from maybe a different perspective. But then at the same time, I'm not really a movie reviewer. I think I'm too verbose to be a movie reviewer. Do you know what I mean? Whereas people like Cody Leach or Lee, or they're more like, on point and concise. And I'm like, I always come back. I always bring it around. I always bring you home. I always bring you home, baby. I always bring you home. But I'm a talker. Right? You know what I mean? So I'm always like, going over here and then going, go over here. Yeah, let's go over here. Movie review, probably a weakness of mine. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I love those guys. It's always fun to get on HalloStream and talk with them. And, I think it's great. I think it's so, and what's so great too is that you have a different variety, right? So, I'm more that talk radio kind of channel, where I give you, my insights and my perspective based on my knowledge and or experience. And then, yeah, and but I'm more that sort of, that talk radio kind of vibe. And then you got, the movie reviewers, and then you got other people doing other things, like, the Wham guys got, the crazy skits and info and updates and stuff. And there's different strokes for different folks, right? And there's plenty of stuff that, to go around, right? So, if you're not really into me and you're like, I'm just not feeling Dave McRae. It's kind of, talks a lot. It's kind of, loud, and it's not really for me. Well, you got other channels you can go check out. You know what I mean? You got other channels you can go check out, I don't take it personally. I know I'm loud. I know I'm verbose at times. I mean, not all the time, but certainly I know that when I get passionate about something, I can certainly talk a lot. Let me see, scroll down. Oh, did I miss a couple? Hang on, you sexy son of a bitches. Did I? Okay, that's the Cochran speech. Hang on, some super chats came in here. I want to make sure I get. Jake Blair sends in $4.99, says, do you think the Akkads would let Michael definitively die on screen? That's a very good question, Jake. Well, here's what I think. Here's what's so silly. Why not? just because you kill Michael in this iteration doesn't mean you can't do a new, if the goal is to keep this timeline going that's connected to the 1978 original, like, then I guess you got to keep them going. But who cares? You know, at the end of the day, if you were to definitively kill him, well, then 5, 10, 6, 3, 4, I don't know, however many years down the road, you reboot it. And oh, look, he's alive again. I think it's a very good question. I know that Mustafa Akkad, you know, so we can't know he never died. 22, Michael, you know, all this kind of shit, right? But, you know, I mean, that's a long time ago. He's been dead now for nearly 20 years. I don't know what Malik's views are. I don't know how protective he is. I mean, obviously it's their bread and butter, and obviously they've made a fortune off of these last 2 movies, and will make a bit more off of this last one. I don't know is the answer, but I would like to think that he would be open to it, because you're not killing Michael altogether. You're killing him in this story, in this version, because I cannot imagine that Akkad, Malik, wants to continue this thing. You know, what, is he going to be 85, 90-year-old Michael Myers? I mean, it's silly, man. It's silly. This is, and by all accounts, all the information we have is that this is the end. This is the end of this story connected to the 1978 original. Do you know what I mean? And people sort of, yeah. So anyway, I hope he does die. I hope he does die. Make a definitive end. He's dead. He's dead. And then however many years down the road, you want to tell the story again for a new generation, for a new audience, well, then knock yourselves out. But this story over here is over. You know, it's like Batman, right? You have Nolan's Batman trilogy. Okay. Now, of course, Batman didn't die, but I think you get the point I'm trying to make, right? You have that. That's its own thing. And then you have the Batman. And then you have, of course, you know, Ben Affleck's Batman. I mean, it's this version of Michael. Let it go. It's over. You know, like, I don't want to see 5 more sequels, with all due respect, because I love James Jude Courtney. I don't want to see 5 more sequels with this, you know, with this Myers. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you know, if you think it's barely believable now, some do, some don't. But, well, what's it going to be in another 10 years when he's 75, 80? You know, he's walking around, you know, I'm just saying. I don't know is the answer, but I hope they're not. I hope he isn't afraid to make it a definitive end. But that doesn't mean a definitive end doesn't mean that Michael's going to die. You know, he could just have him walk off into the ether, you know, never to be seen again. And it's like, oh, come on. Anyway, it's a good question, though. I just hope they're not afraid to do it. Red Foreman sends in $10, says, any chance we can get an epic rant for Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2? Probably not on its own. I know that, you know, there's 3, I think, actually. There's a very early episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. I forget what number it is, but there's a very early episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit where Tony and I talk about Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2. And then we also watch Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 later on. I know that our 100th episode, I believe our 100th episode was us watching Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So you can check it out. You can check that out. And I mean, I'm not ranting and raving because I'm hosting a show, but certainly I give you, you know, some thoughts on it and all that kind of stuff. But will I do a specific, like now at this point, do a video on Rob Zombie's 1 and 2? Probably not. I don't feel inspired to do it. I don't, you know, it's kind of been done kind of thing. You know, I mean, yeah, I don't know. But you never say never. You never say never. But thanks, Red, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Simon Mills sends in £10 and says, hey Dave, something different. Who's your favorite Dracula or Dracula movie? Mine is Christopher Lee. He is the GOAT, and have ever been into the Hammer horror movies with Chris Lee and Peter Cushing. I have watched a few of the Hammer horror films. Not a lot, to be fair, but certainly I have. And Christopher Lee is a great Dracula. He's a great villain, period. My first experience to Christopher Lee was back in 1987 when I watched a little Swedish film called Mio min Mio. And in English, it was called Mio and the Land of Faraway. And it was one of, if not Christian Bale's first movies. It was either Empire of the Sun, the Spielberg film, was Bale's first movie, or this movie was Christian Bale's first movie. If you have not heard of Mio and the Land of Faraway, or Mio min Mio, which is just Mio my Mio, I think it's called, or whatever, look it up. It's a kid's movie from 35 years ago. And I really liked it. And Christopher Lee plays the villain in that movie. And of course, when the movie came out, I was like 8. And that was sort of my first introduction to Christopher Lee. And I thought he was great. He's great in everything. But I thought he was great in that. My favorite Dracula, I'm not big into Dracula. I'll be honest with you. I don't hate him or anything like that. I don't hate the character or the lore or, Vlad the Impaler. Which of course they think is who he's based on. Right. I'm just not a big vampire person. Do you know what I mean? I'm very neutral. I could take it or leave it. Like The Lost Boys is not one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't dislike The Lost Boys. When I was a kid and when it came out, it wasn't a movie that I was really into. I couldn't have cared less about it just because I'm not really into vampires. But I'm not into vampires. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of neutral. Like I could take it, leave it, doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? So I don't have a favorite Dracula. But Christopher Lee, because I have seen the movie where he played Dracula, is a great Dracula for sure. But it's just because he's got so much gravitas and presence. Do you know what I mean? He's so cool. Great question though. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. And Peter Cushing, of course, is, he's Peter Cushing, right? Come on. Walking around in his slippers on the set of A New Hope. Jonathan Grant sends in £5, says, "Hi, Dave. I kind of feel they spoil HNs by telling us that one survives. What do you think? Love you, man." Yeah, I mean, yes, in the synopsis, it says, what does it say in the synopsis again? Or was that might have been in the body of the actual article. Yeah, somewhere either in the synopsis or in the body of that article that came out last week. Yeah, they had said something like, and only one can survive or whatever. You can take it literally, right? And reading that and taking it at face value, yes, you can take it literally that it means that literally only one is going to survive, right? Because you'd be like, well, why would they write that if that's not true? Well, it's a synopsis. And it's like not a figure of speech, but it's like, it's like a state, and only one will come out on top and only one will survive. And it's just kind of, it's cinematic to phrase it that way because you can still die, but win. Do you know what I mean? Like Laurie and Michael can die and die together. But if Laurie sacrifices herself to save the town or to say, I know I'm playing a little bit of the semantics route here, to be fair. I get that. But I'm just trying to kind of, it wouldn't surprise me if both of them died because I kind of look at the synopsis as just sort of it's a cinematic way of selling the movie and only one is going to, maybe, but it could literally mean only one. And if it literally does mean only one, then I'm hoping it's Michael. But it could be Laurie. But I'm hoping it's Michael Myers. I do. Yeah, I do. I think it is going to be. Just a feeling I have. Just the way that they're setting up the film and everything, we've been hearing about it and stuff. I just have a feeling it's going to be. But we'll see. We shall see. And thank you for the super chat, Jonathan. Appreciate it. And do I think they spoiled it? Well, no, not really. Not really, because like I said, it could just be the way are selling it. But they haven't told you who. So, yeah. But I get it. Craig Phillips sends in $5, says, Dave, me and my wife watched the Ken and Barbie Killers, The Lost Tapes. Do you remember that? Did your dad cover it since it was in Toronto? Oh, so you're talking about Karla Homolka and what's his face? Paul Bernardo. You're talking about, Paul Bernardo. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, because most of my viewers are American, Paul Bernardo, he's in prison for life. This is so terrible. So in the late 80s, early 90s, there were a lot of rapes that were happening in and around the Toronto area. And this guy named Paul Bernardo and his girlfriend, Karla Homolka, I think is how you say her last name, and she's out now. Fucking can't believe that shit. Anyway, so long story short, because this could be a whole fucking thing. They were charged with the abduction, kidnapping, sexual rape, and murder of 2 girls. And not only that, of Karla's own younger sister. So Paul Bernardo has a girlfriend named Karla, and she has a sister. And they raped and murdered her own sister. Like, it's sick shit. This is like late 80s, early 90s. Anyways, he was obviously found. He was caught, and she was caught, and they were put on trial. He was sentenced to life. And she was sentenced to, like, I don't know, 10 years or something. Can you believe that fucking shit? She's out now. She's been out for years now, like 20 years or something, or almost. She's changed her name. She got married and has kids of her own. Sick shit. There's a movie about it too. And a documentary, obviously. But yeah, very, very sick. Very, very, very sick indeed. And yeah, they were known as the Ken and Barbie Killers because they, I'm assuming that's who you're talking about, because they kind of looked like Barbie and Ken. They kind of had that vibe to them. Do you know what I mean? And so, hang on, I'm just going back to the super chat here. Yeah. No, I don't believe my dad covered it. My dad was in Ottawa at that time. Ottawa is Canada's capital, so it's like our Washington. And my dad, my dad moved from Toronto to Ottawa in 1986. So by the time that was happening in Toronto, I mean, my dad may have written an article on it or something, but I don't think he specifically was covering it. I don't think so. That would have been, the journalists in Toronto. Had my dad been in Toronto at that time, yeah, there's no doubt he would have been for sure. But I don't think he wasn't there at that time. But it's sick shit, man. I remember it. I mean, I was very young. I was like 10, but I remember it. Oh yeah, he's one of Canada's most infamous serial killers for sure. / rapists. I mean, he raped God knows how many people, and then he murdered like at least 3 that we know. Oh yeah, it was brutal stuff, man. But I have not checked out the thing you're talking about. I haven't checked it out, but I'm very familiar with a lot of the shit. It's crazy stuff. Daniel Palma sends in $1.99 and says, Lori equals Bowser is epic. Hashtag please God stick the landing. I could not agree with you more, man. I just happen to take the mindset of, at this stage of the game, let's not get too avant-garde. Let's not get too experimental. Hey, you know what? But I'm open to being proven wrong. I don't want to hate this movie. I want to love this movie. I want to walk out of that theater, and I want to do a fucking live stream with you guys or a video and be like, guys, dude, guys. Oh, that's what I want. We all want that, right? But I just can't help but feel that introducing this little kind of new, I don't know, man. But you know what? Like I said, I applaud for taking risks. As a filmmaker myself and as somebody who is a creative person, hey, there's nothing wrong with taking risks. But they should be calculated risks. We should be like, hey, we're 2 movies in. Should we be doing this? Or should we just be gliding in. And like I said on the Two Dude show the other day, when I say hands at 10 and 2 and taking it in, I don't mean you and playing it safe. I don't mean safe as in predictable, boring, and pedestrian. I don't mean that. Okay, that's not what I mean. I just mean it's a Halloween movie at the end of the day. And it feels like Halloween. It smells like Halloween. It looks like Halloween. It tastes like Halloween. Do you know what I mean? And you play into that whole, just kind of bring it in right now. To kind of just go, you know what we should do? It's like, now, this late, maybe this should have been set up from the beginning. But hey, I haven't seen the movie. You haven't seen the movie. We haven't seen the movie. We don't know. But I agree with you. I do agree with you. All right. Michael Parton. Could be a couple ways. Parton, maybe? I think that's how you say it. $5. Thanks, buddy. Says, with Ben Affleck returning as Batman for Aquaman 2, I'm praying and hoping that they could continue the Snyderverse even without Ezra Miller as Flash. Well, Michael, I am probably not the best person to talk about this kind of stuff with, only because I am not very knowledgeable on the universe and the characters. I mean, obviously, you can't live in the entertainment world and not know something about it. But I have no emotional stake in the game. I have not seen the Snyder Cut. I have not seen Justice League. I have not seen Aquaman. I have not seen Wonder Woman or Wonder Woman 84. I think I've only seen 4 Marvel movies. Seriously. Now again, I don't know if you're new, but I've said this before. Most of you already know this, but I just want to say this again. It's not because I hate superhero movies or I'm too good for, no. Nothing to do with that. I just didn't grow up with comics or superheroes, or I just never was into it. Like how some people are not into Star Wars, right? But I grew up with I'm into Star Wars. But some people are like, yeah, I don't really care. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So but I hear you. And if you're somebody, which I think you are, who is a big fan of the Snyderverse, at least basing on what you've said, I'm pulling for you, man. I have no dog in the fight. I couldn't care less whether they made another Snyder movie film ever again in that world. But if you are into it and you're like fucking on board and you're locked, loaded, and ready to go and you want that to continue, I'm pulling for you, man. I hope they do it. I really do. I just can't help but feel that everything's so messy. You know, like it's like you got the Batman and you got the Snyderverse, then you got that. Now it's not the Snyderverse, and you got the Joker. It's not connected to the Batman. It just feels all messy to me. That's what I always think of when I think of DC right now. I think of mess. Like you walk into your child's room and there's Lego all over the ground, and there's like a sandwich in the corner, and there's this, and it's just like it just feels messy and unstructured. You know what I mean? It just kind of feels that way. Whereas Marvel, whether you like it or not, good or bad, they definitely had a plan from the beginning, and it feels more. It feels like walking into a nice, clean bedroom, So, but like I said, I did watch Man of Steel. I saw that in the movie theater. I thought that was okay. I did see Batman versus Superman. I actually liked it, but it's probably because I also have no skin in the game. I also have no dog in the fight. I'm not emotionally attached to the world and to the universe, and I don't know all of the, those details. Do you know? Like I had no idea there was a character by the name of Black Adam until until the fucking trailer came out. I had no idea that there was a guy named Doctor Strange until the trailer. Like I'm not up on it as much, so. And it doesn't mean that, like, some people say, oh, but you should watch. You'd like it. It's like, I'm not watching because I don't think I'd like it. I'm just not into it. Like how there's something in your life. There's a series, there's a television show, there's whatever it is in your life that a lot of people are into that you just don't get into. You don't make time for it because you just don't care to the same degree that they do. It's the same thing here. But I'm pulling for you, man. I'm pulling for you. I'm pulling for you because I know that you're not alone. There's a lot of Snyderverse heads out there who would love to see that continue. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Steve Evans sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Steve. Says, theory, Michael hasn't been seen in 4 years because Laurie is holding him captive in the cave sewer. Cody stalks her, follows her to the cave, and helps Michael escape. It backfires on him and, in turn, Laurie. That's an interesting theory. I don't know if I agree with Laurie is holding him captive part, because if Laurie can hold him captive, she could probably kill him. And I would imagine that she would probably... What benefit does Laurie have holding him captive? Unless, of course, she's holding him captive long enough in hopes that he speaks or something. Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely this is definitely going to be different. Let's just say that this is definitely going to be different. I have a feeling that this will be a very divisive movie. Unfortunately, I think the probability is quite high, and that's too bad. But maybe not. But that's an interesting theory, though, man. It's an interesting theory. I don't know if I agree with the first part, but Cody stalking, and maybe Cody gets the mask. I'm just saying, maybe Cody picks up the jumpsuit from, I don't know, a Walmart or something. I don't know. Who knows? But it's an interesting, that would be weird. Definitely, if Laurie was holding him captive, that would be kind of strange. But I guess you never know, man. It's an interesting theory. It's an interesting theory. The Quantum Tiger sends in $4.99, says, I really hope while Corey and Laurie are fighting that Michael pops up behind Corey, wrecks him, then takes the mask back so the real fight can begin. Well, I think that's a good theory in some ways, Quantum, because if the mask that Corey is wearing, and again, it hasn't been 100% confirmed yet that the person we see in the trailer in the outfit, at least some of the times, is Corey. But there's at least very strong circumstantial evidence to cast reasonable doubt. If this was a court case right now, I think it's safe to say that Corey would be found guilty, wouldn't you? I mean, listen, we don't have definitive 100% objective truth yet because we haven't seen the movie. But we have enough circumstantial evidence to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. Wouldn't you agree? So I think it's safe to say that if the mask that Corey is wearing is Michael's mask and not some other mask, maybe Michael comes looking for it. Maybe he shows up, like, I want my fucking mask back, you piece of shit. And that's what ends up happening. I could totally see that. And to your point there, maybe they're in this hustle and this tussle and this brawl, and then the real Michael shows up and is like, I don't fucking think so. And then like takes Corey out, takes the mask, and then it's on. I don't know. I have no idea. But there's only several ways you could go here. Fascinating. Tabitha Short, hey, Tabitha, one of my great moderators here, sends in $5. She didn't have to do that, Tab. Says, Dave, I'm going to Motor City Nightmares tomorrow to meet Miko Hughes. You've met him already, right? I have, yes. We had dinner together, myself and Cecil and Vince and everybody a few years ago. Should I meet Charles Cyphers while there? Sure, why not? Why not? Meet Charles Cyphers, man. Yes. Yes, he's there. He's a legend. He's a Halloween legend. I mean, he's a John Carpenter legend. He was also in The Fog. He was in The Fog. Yes, of course. Meet Charles. Be prepared, though. Depending on the day, he might be a little grumpy. I don't know. He was a little grumpy. You know, when I met him 4 years ago, he's a little grumpy. But no, yeah, of course. Meet as many people as you possibly can. And say hello to Miko for me. Let me see. Let Just want to make sure I'm not missing a super chat. DM Owen sends in $4.99, says, what Halloween would you say is the most underrated? The most underrated Halloween. Well, what's our measuring stick? What underrated how, right? Okay, I'll take it in a general sense because I think that's what you mean. I would probably say most underrated. That's tough. I would probably say it's either going to fall with, okay, so is the most underrated. So that means that the movie currently is not well favored. Okay, so it can't be a movie that you personally think is underrated, right? I want to be as objective as possible. So a Halloween movie that I feel that I would say is the most underrated. Okay, well, let's try and remove our personal thoughts and think about it from a general consensus point of view. And then that would mean that it would be a movie that is generally not liked, but that I might think is not as bad as what the general consensus is. Probably Halloween 4. Now, I know Halloween 4 has a lot of its fans, but when you look at sort of the critic reviews and things like that, and sort of when it first came out, it's probably 4, generally speaking. But beyond that, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Resurrection, not a fan of H2O. And H2O isn't generally thought of as underrated anyway. It's generally favored. So you can't include H2O in that. Resurrection you could include because it's generally favored as unfavorable, but I don't think Resurrection is underrated. So, I mean, maybe the first Rob Zombie movie from a certain point of view, perhaps, because you're looking at it from a perspective of it's a different take. It's a reimagining of the story. So it's just not the way I would have done it. So yeah, maybe 4 or Rob Zombie's first movie, maybe. But Rob Zombie's first movie is probably more unfavored than 4 in the general consensus. So maybe in there. I don't know, man. There's not a lot of them, to be honest with you. I mean, you could put 3 in there, I guess, but yeah, maybe 3 if you take it on its own merits, maybe. If you take it on its own merits, perhaps. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel off the top of my head anyway. But if you give me more time to think about it, then I might be able to come up with a better sort of definitive answer. But it's a good question. It's a good question. A very generous super chat of $49.99 from Jordan Ellis. Thank you, Jordan. Really appreciate that, man. You didn't have to do that. Says, after Halloween ends, I really would love to see a Nightmare remake of sorts. No need to bring Robert back. His time has passed for another Nightmare film. I'm a big Fred head and would love to experience a new take on the franchise. Have a blessed day, Dave. Well, I am right there with you, Jordan. And again, thank you for that very generous super chat. Yeah, I mean, look, I've said this, ad nauseum. I love Robert. Who doesn't? He's a horror icon. His legacy is firmly cemented. But I'm in agreement. I think it is time to move on. I want to make Freddy scary again, and I want to go back to the roots of those first 2 films, especially. Although 2 is sort of the black sheep of the family, it is, he's incredibly scary in it. Arguably the best makeup on Freddy ever. I want to get back to that. Somebody else can play Freddy. It doesn't have to be Robert. You just have to bring the essence of the character there. I've said it 1,000 times. And so I think that I'm with you. Whether it's a theatrical movie or a streaming movie or a series might be interesting because then you could tell sort of the origin story of Freddy perhaps. But then you have to make that very uncomfortable decision of, do we go all out and make him a child molester or a child murderer? I've always said, and you can disagree if you want. Obviously, it is no secret that originally Freddy was supposed to be a child molester. That was the original intention of the character. And then they felt that that might have been too much because also kids were watching this movie and, oh, hey, it's your favorite neighborhood child molester. I mean, it's just, and you're buying like Halloween costumes and you're dressing up as a child molester. I mean, it's a little, so they softened it a bit. And of course they made him a child murderer. But as I often say here on this channel, I mean, okay. But really, you may not, okay, so he's a child murderer. He's not a child molester. But let's be honest here. It's not a giant leap to assume that he was anyway with kids, because if you have an infatuation with kids, oh, no, you're not doing anything to them. You're just killing them. It's like, yeah, that doesn't usually happen. If you're murdering kids and only kids because you have an infatuation with kids, chances are there's a little more going on there. You know what I mean? But for the sake of the movie, they softened it, didn't talk about it. Of course, the remake went like full on into it. So obviously you would have to come to a creative decision on what you would do. Probably because of the political climate today, I could see that being softened again. Maybe even more so. Maybe they don't even talk about kids. They really focus on maybe like teenagers, like high school kids or college kids even. I could see them in a reimagining of the Elm Street series, maybe doing something like that just to get away from it a little bit. But that is something that you would kind of have to, how are we going to approach this in today's climate? Because they, like I said, 35, 40 years ago, they softened it then too. But I would be open to a series. I just know that if you were to give Elm Street the Halloween, touch with what they did with 18, that's fine. But then you would have to convince Robert to come back for I don't know, man. I just, it's one thing to get Robert back, to get Nancy back and do a swan song. But if it's hugely successful, which it likely would be, then where does that leave us? And what if Robert only wants to do one? What if Heather only wants to do one? Then where are you left? I just think at the end of the day, just reboot it. Because now you have an opportunity to make it really scary. I mean fucking you watch a movie and you walk out of that theater or whatever and it's like, holy shit, that was great. And it's grounded and it's scary and it's not over the top sensational with the, these one-liners. And Freddy's not a fucking loser. He's a loser in, the later films. He's a loser in Freddy's Dead. He's a loser, dude. He's a loser. And I just feel that like, make him scary again. Go back to those roots, less carnival barker and more, just like this, that, oh, you know what I mean? There's an opportunity there. And don't cast Kevin Bacon. He's too old. He's approaching his mid-60s, for Christ's sakes. Cast somebody who's a relatively unknown actor and who's like between 35 and 45. Because Robert was like 35 when he got cast. So, something like that. And he was relatively unknown. Yeah, he had some success on V, but nobody knew who Robert Englund was. It wasn't until Freddy came along that he really became that household name. So, household name in horror. I could still walk up to the average person on the street and say Robert Englund. They probably wouldn't know who the hell I was talking about. But in the horror community and in the horror world, yeah, he's fucking Lugosi. I mean, it's just I just think it's important that we do our best to try and maybe move on, and see it as, and Robert, I think, would agree. Listen, if you pay Robert enough and it's a great script, he'll probably come back. But Robert's the one that has been advocating for it's time to move on too. So, yeah, I hear you, man. I do. And I really hope they can not only start to get Freddy back on track, but get Freddy right. Because that's important too. And it's important with Friday the 13th as well. David Lee Barron sends in $4.99, says, Dear Dr. Pichet, what does a film treatment consist of? Title, logline, synopsis, summary of each act. How does one go about putting one together? Well, oh boy. Okay, well, a film treatment, can be listen, if you're James Cameron, you tend to write treatments that are like 60 pages long. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just write the script. Generally speaking, there's no set length for a treatment generally. But the shorter, the better. Like I would say, generally speaking, anywhere between 10 and 20 pages for a treatment. Because if you're sending in like a 50-page treatment, whoever you're sending it to, whether it's a producer or an executive or whoever, they don't, I mean, if they're going to sit there and read a 50-page treatment, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, why don't you just send me the script? Like, why? Like, don't send me a 50-page treatment. Send me a 90-page script. So treatments generally between 10 and 20 pages, I think is a good ballpark. And yes, it will have a log line. It will have a title. It'll have a log line. The log line will come first, right? And then the synopsis will come next, okay? And then you could even have a breakdown of each character, your main characters, right? So your protagonist, your antagonist, and maybe a few side characters, perhaps. You don't have to, but you can have little sort of short character descriptions. And then, yeah, it's a breakdown. It is the main sort of events, the main plot points of each act, right? And you break it down. There's no dialogue, okay? So, I mean, that doesn't mean you can't have a sentence of dialogue or something if it makes sense. But generally speaking, treatments have no dialogue. It is just action. It's the breakdown of the action and the arcs of the characters and sort of where you get from point A to point B to point C in the film. It is your movie condensed into, sort of this summary essentially of the main plot points, main story beats, no dialogue of each act. Yes, that is true. And it can be 10 pages, 15 pages, 20 pages, but, do not, unless asked for it. I mean, if you were like sitting down with some big producer who's got money and is like, no, dude, I want a 30-page treatment. That's what I want. I love reading 30-page treatments. Well, then give them a 30-page treatment. You know what I mean? But in my experience, generally speaking, it's 10, 15, 20 pages tops, like tops. You know what I mean? Because they also don't have time, especially if they're busy and they're reading a lot of treatments. They don't have time to be reading 15, 80-page treatments. You know what I mean? Well, just send me the script then. So yeah, that's, I mean, you're on the right track. How does one go about putting it together? Well, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of YouTube videos and articles online that you could read about how to put one together. But you got to know your story. You definitely have to know your story. You have to know how your story ends, where you're going and where you're beginning. Where you're ending is often, where you're ending in a story is often more important than where you're beginning because, at least the end and where you need to get to. But yeah, so you have to know your story. You have to know sort of the overall gist of it before you start writing it. But yeah, I'm sure there's lots of resources online to sort of help you put one together. I've written a few in my life and they can be fun. I'm in the middle of one now that I can't talk about yet. But yeah, it's fun. But yes, you are right in terms of the structure there. Oh, and don't forget to put your name and address on it too. Well, not necessarily your address, but certainly your contact information. If you're sending it to somebody. Jonathan Grant sends in £5 and says, Dave, I really wish they did that scene in the dark where Michael gets the mask in 2018. It would have been so cool. Oh, I couldn't agree more, man. Totally. I've said that 1,000 times. Yeah, the scene, I think the whole garage scene should have happened at night. It plays out fine. During the day, it's fine. But at night, you got mood and atmosphere. Imagine Dana, excuse me. Imagine Dana being killed, in that bathroom and it's dimly lit with like an overhead fluorescent light that's just going zzz, You know what I mean? And she's in there, and Aaron gets killed in the bathroom, you know, and then he goes out to the car, and there's like a lamppost by the car shining down on one side of his face. And same shot through the windshield, but you just see one side of his face in shadow. Oh yeah, no, it would have been better. 100%. In terms of feeling like the Shape, looking like Mike, oh yeah, totally. Would have been great. If I was writing that scene, I would have written it in a way that I would have tried to have it make sense in terms of the timeline that scene happens at night. Yep. I'm in agreement with you there, for sure. Red Foreman sends in $10, says, hey, Dave, I would love to see some BTS of It's Me, Billy writing room. I'm an amateur writer and would love to learn from your insights. Well, we don't have any BTS video footage of our writing process. We didn't shoot any video of that. So there's no behind the scenes of that. What I can tell you is everybody's process is different. So, you know, one of the things that Bruce and I did with Billy, of course, is, you know, we watched the original film and we call it cracking the code, right? So we spent a lot of time brainstorming. You know, we had a whiteboard, we had charts. We actually had a graph and charts and, you know, the characters and things like that. And we would brainstorm ideas of what made the most sense. Where would we pick it up? Should this be a period piece? Should we set this in 1974? Well, that would be difficult. That would only raise our budget. We thought about it, but that would raise the budget huge, you know, because then all of a sudden now the set decoration and the set design is going to be ridiculous. So that was out. We didn't think we'd raise the money for that. Of course, we would not have. So we decided to set it, you know, at present day, and then we'd move, you know, all that kind. It's about brainstorming and finding the right people to work with, who you gel with. But in terms of your process and how you come to ideas, that's a very personal thing. I don't think I can tell you how to come to ideas. I can simply say that I think writing things down helps, no pun intended on the writing, but I think that's true. I think the more you can have like a whiteboard or a chart or whatever, or even on your computer, and you can sort of get your ideas down and share those ideas with people and brainstorm, I think that's the way to go, because then it goes from being subjective to objective then, right? You see it on a board, and sometimes seeing it a bit more objectively and talking about it with people, you really sort of flesh things out and ideas, and you know, you once thought it might work, now it doesn't, or whatever. But that's really, you know, what worked for us, and what worked for us with this new treatment that we've written as well for this other project that we want to do. You know, again, it was about getting together, whiteboards, graphs, brainstorming. You don't have to have whiteboards or graphs. I'm just saying Bruce and I had that kind of thing where we would put our ideas down, and sometimes you go through multiple ideas. Sometimes, you know, you will go through multiple different trajectories of the story, and then you got to dial it back. And, you know, it's a process. Let's put it this way. It's a process, and allow the process to take place. Try not to get too frustrated. If you get writer's block, walk away for a week, right? No rush. I mean, unless you're hired by a studio to have something in by a deadline, well, that might be different, but you know, you're likely getting paid to do that too. So, you know, that's a bit different. But if you're not getting paid, as we weren't and we aren't right now, you know, you have time, walk away, right? But allow the process to take place. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to hit writer's block. You're going to hit ideas block. But just kind of walk away for a bit and come back to it. Allow the process to happen, and surround yourself with people that you gel with. That's very important as well, you know, that you're on the same page with, and that challenge you as well. Bruce and I don't always agree on everything. We don't always agree on everything. But nine times out of 10, we always find a compromise, you know, and we try to get the best of both worlds. So great question though. Reese McLaughlin, I think is how you say that. I could be wrong. Laughlin. £4.49 says, hi, Dave. What direction do you think they will take Halloween when it returns in a few years? P.S. Michael's floating down the river is the most cringe. Dude, it was really cringe. It was absolute cringe. Reese, I would say, I don't know. We have no indication that they are going to reboot it in a few years. All I will say is that I hope they don't just reboot the same thing again. So I don't know what Malik is thinking. I don't know what they're going to do. But as a Halloween fan, listen, I will be there day one. I will watch the movie. I will cover it. We'll talk about it. Of course, we're Halloween fans. But I don't care to see this story told again. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean 6-year-old Michael killing his sister Judith, being put away in a sanitarium for 20 years or, whatever it is, 15 years, escaping on Halloween night, coming back to Haddonfield, going after Laurie. I don't want to see that again. I've seen it. You got Rob Zombie doing it. You got the original doing it. You got multiple timelines extending from that original. Been there, done that. We've got the good, we've got the bad, we've got the ugly. I'm okay. That doesn't mean that 20 years from now, I might not want, but I think if you're going to tell the story again, and I've said this before, reimagine it. Don't reimagine it to the point where you insult the intelligence of Halloween fans or you remove the DNA of what a Halloween movie is. I don't mean going to the extreme. I just mean maybe reimagine it. Like what Tony and I said on an episode of Two Dudes where we talked about maybe you tell the story again, but you're telling it in the 1950s and it's a film noir horror film and it's in black and white. And Loomis is not a psychiatrist. He's a detective from Chicago who's come to the small town of Haddonfield in Illinois because they need a big city detective because there's these murders that are happening, and maybe Michael and Judith are brother and sister, but they're maybe around the same age and they're both in high school together, and it's all building to maybe again that's just sort of maybe something like that. Explore that, right? Explore that, expand on that. What does that mean? A Halloween movie, film noir, Hitchcock, sort of gritty, eerie, whatever. If it succeeds, great. If it doesn't, okay. But at least it's not just the same movie again a couple years later. That's how I feel about it. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be there day one. I mean, come on, I'm a Halloween fan, right? And it doesn't mean that they couldn't reboot it 2 years later, tell the same thing again, and it be great. But I just feel that there needs to be some breathing room. There needs to be some distance here. We've just gone through this, maybe, just tell it like a different sort of reimagine the story a bit. You don't remove the DNA. You don't, make it not feel Halloween. You could have the Halloween music in there. You could have, but it's black and white and that film noir detective horror movie. You could have blood in there and everything. And you could make a fucking creepy ass eerie movie. And Michael's been brought right back to the root. Like imagine that first Halloween movie, but in black and white. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of thing, and Loomis is like I said, a detective brought in and whatever. I'm down for that because I'm like, oh, well, it's the story again, but it's a bit different. I like that. That's cool. That's cool to me. But if I hear that 2 years from now, I don't know, Millie Bobby Brown has been cast as Laurie Strode, and it's like, oh God, guys, come on, in a remake of Halloween, and it's going to be set in 1983, and the guy that played Vecna, he's cast as Michael when they fast forward to 1998, and it'll all take place, and it's the same thing, and you have so and so who's cast as Dr. Loomis, again. That's just how I feel. But I do understand I might be in the minority there. I don't know for sure, but I might be. I'm not sure. All right. Where are you? Oh, I lost you. Oh boy, I really lost you. There was a big jump there. Holy snap and crap. The Quantum Tiger, $4.99. Thank you, buddy. Says, if Michael survives, do you think they'll continue his story in the timeline if the movie does well? It depends on how well, you know. If it makes $110 million at the box office, probably not, because the trajectory is going downwards. If it makes $210 million at the box office, probably. I don't suspect that it's going to make that. I really don't. I don't suspect it's going to do as well. I really don't. I've talked to some fans that are not Halloween fans per se, but they're movie fans, and they're like, oh, there's another Halloween movie coming already? Okay. I suspect this will do fine. Like, it'll make its money back, but I suspect it will. Don't be surprised if this is the lowest box office between the three, because you have to remember, Halloween fans, Halloween 18 overperformed by a long shot. So this thing ain't making $250 million at the box office. This will likely make maybe over 100, maybe. We'll see. But it's possible. I guess it depends on how well it does. But I hope they don't. Okay, let me get these super chats. Jake Blair, $4.99 says, what's your ideal way to celebrate Halloween? Can't wait for the month of October to get here. Love the build-up and the festivities. Well, Jake, when I was a kid, of course, trick-or-treating. When I got too old to trick-or-treat, I would put on a little Halloween show at my house. I would have fog machines and lights and sound effects and all that kind of stuff, and I would dress up as Michael Myers. Of course, this is going back to the early to mid-90s, but that's what I would do. Now, not too much. I don't have many kids in the neighborhood. A few kids come to the door, but nothing major, so I don't do too much. But that's what I used to do. For sure. Now, as a 43-year-old man, well, I just probably watch a couple of horror movies and eat some candy and call it a night. Is probably what I do. I think that's what I've been doing the last few years. Mike Skis, I think that's how you say that, sends in a very generous super chat of $20. Thank you, Mike. Says, hey, Dave, it could be possible, based on the synopsis, that Michael does in fact kill Laurie, but then Allison has to deliver the final blow to end Myers for good. In that sense, there would be a passing of the torch to her. That's true. Yeah, could be, man. Could be. If Michael dies and Laurie dies, I don't suspect that they want to. I just hope they don't do that, right? You know, in terms of keeping the story going, but with Allison, I've said it before. I will say it again to the 236 people that are watching. You can take this to the bank. If for whatever reason this series does continue, and I don't think it will, not connected to this series, like this timeline. I mean, you know, you never know 20 years from now. Allison's in her 50s. They bring her back. But the more sequels you make, it is inevitable. What do I always say? The more sequels you make, it's inevitable that you're going to find yourself right back where you started. The reason why they negated all those sequels is because they became dog shit. So now they're going to go off and make sequels, and they know that. Listen, money talks. It's show business. I understand that. But to the fans out there that think you can get another 5 movies in this timeline, that they're all good. Listen, they're not off to a great start. 18 was a great start, even though I wasn't a huge fan of it. Generally speaking, it was solid, right? Like, people liked it. People thought it was okay. It was good, you know. And then along comes the Last Jedi of the Halloween movies, the Halloween Kills. And you're like, already? You know, where are we going to be in another 5 sequel? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's stop while we're, you know what I mean? Let's kind of get out. So, yeah, I know that's not your question, but I just want to sort of say that even if Alan is the last woman standing, I hope it is not to set up more movies with her. Unless, of course, you want to tell other stories with her, which I don't think they will. That doesn't really make any sense, you know, without Michael. But yeah, Michael's got to die. It needs to die. It does. It does. This iteration does. Yes. Yes, it does. Will it be the satisfying conclusion we hope for? I don't know, man. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. Jonathan Grant sends in £5 and says, one of my favorite characters from a film is Roy Batty Batty, I think it's Batty. Is it Batty from Blade Runner? I have the tee and poster with him holding a dove. Are you a fan of the film? Roy Batty, yeah. Roy Batty? Let me see. Why am I drawing a blank? That's not, what's his face, is it? Oh, it is. Yeah. Okay, it is. Yeah, of course. Of course it is. Of course it is. Yes, I'm a big fan of Blade Runner. Harrison Ford, of course. Ridley Scott, 1982. Didn't do very well at the box office when it came out. There's a number of reasons for that. I forgot his name was Roy. That's right. Yes, I do like Blade Runner. I do. I wouldn't say I love the movie, but I definitely like it. I remember the first time I watched it as a kid, I didn't like it. And I'm a huge Harrison Ford fan. He's my favorite actor of all time. But I didn't like the movie as a kid because I think the film was too cerebral and it's not a cerebral film, but it was a little too intellectual, I think. There's a lot of themes and layers to that movie that I just didn't understand as a kid. And it's not like it's this, kind of sci-fi movie, right? It's not like Star Wars. So, I remember not liking it the first time I watched it. It's kind of like how I felt when I watched 2001 as a kid. I watched 2001 the very first time when I was like 10. You know what I'm saying? But as I got older, when I watched 2001 again as like a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, I loved it. Because I got older, I got wiser, I could understand more of the complexities in the cinematic language and everything. It's like, wow. And I started to get more like into philosophical things and the meaning of life and all that kind of stuff. And so it really, I appreciate, I mean, it's one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time now is 2001. I think it's brilliant. And Blade Runner, I wouldn't say is up there, not like that for me, but certainly I appreciate Blade Runner now on a different level than I did when I was like 10. Well, I didn't appreciate it all when I was 10. But now, yeah, it's definitely, it's a great film. I was going to say something else, but yeah, no, it is. It's great. And that speech at the very end, of course, just kind of like brings it all home, right? When like the rain is teeming down and it's great. Yep. It's too bad he's dead now, Rutger Hauer. It's too bad. Because I really liked him. There we go. There we go. All right, I got to get through these. Vince, is it Turalo? I always forget. Why do I always forget this? Arlo. Tarlo. That's it. Tarlo. I think I've got it now. I think. $4.99. Thanks, buddy. Says, in your opinion, if Halloween Ends is bad, do you still support them going in a different direction, or would you have preferred a straight Michael Myers slasher? If Halloween Ends, well, okay. I see what you're saying. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know if this is going to pay off. I can tell you that I do not support, it would not be, it's always a risk, all right? If the risk pays off, that is unlikely to change my mind. I probably still would not have made the risk, right? So if the risk pays off and it's a phenomenal film and it's a great movie and everybody loves it, that still doesn't change my mind on it being a risk I probably would not have taken. It's a risk that worked out. It worked, but how many times does that happen? Do you know what I mean? When you are fourth down and 50 yards to go with 0.5 seconds left in the game and you throw a long bomb, is there evidence of quarterbacks doing that where it works out and you get a touchdown and you win the game? Well, yes, of course. But if you were to take the stats of all the times that quarterbacks have done that, you would probably find that 98% of the time it doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? It either gets intercepted or it's over the guy's head or he catches it, but he ends up getting tackled. Whatever the case is, right? It usually, because of the pressure on and the distance and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It does. But it still probably wouldn't have been a risk I would have taken. I probably would have taken more of the other way. So I will say that. It probably won't change my mind in that regard. But again, when you say preferred a straight Michael Myers slasher, we got that. We got that in Halloween Kills. It makes sense that this is going to be more of a character-driven movie as opposed to a plot-driven movie. So I'm okay. I'm okay with them pulling it back, being more about the characters. It has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with this other sort of thing, this other layer they've added to it that we've been hearing about that, I don't know. Is it true that the film focuses heavily on this guy and Michael's hardly in the movie till the very end? That may be true. Well, is that the right thing to do? I don't know, fans. You let me know. I'm not saying that is what's happening, but I'm saying that is part of the rumor mill that has come out. So, and again, the reason why I give credence to some of these rumors that have yet to be proven conclusively is because it was once a rumor that there was a Corey and it was, there was, because part of the rumor mill was once Corey played by said actor. That was also a rumor that wasn't confirmed either. And then it did get confirmed, right? That there is an actor by the name of this guy playing this guy named Corey. We know now that that is true. So now you look at all the other stuff and you're like, well, if this is true, is that true? It might be, or it could be a case of the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So that's the only reason why I've given it a lot of sort of thought and talk on this channel, even though it hasn't been 100% confirmed objectively yet because the film hasn't been released. Or we haven't seen anything like that in the marketing yet either. And then, of course, you get the trailer with, the hand with the fingers there and the ring on the finger. And it's like just more stuff that kind of goes, do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm okay with them pulling it back and giving us more of a Halloween 18 movie. I'm okay with that. And maybe adding more stalking and lurking and mood and atmosphere. Yeah. I'm all for that. But to go this direction, I don't know, man. I don't know. But no, I don't think it would change my mind. It could be bad because at this point in time, I still don't really support them doing that. Well, what I meant by I support film, let me try this again. What I meant when I said that I support filmmakers taking risks is when the risks make sense. Do you know what I mean? I don't believe that taking this risk so late in the game makes sense. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But I'm ready to be proven wrong. Eddie Chase sends in $10, says, don't like what Marvel has done. Complete oversaturation, quantity over quality, style over substance, and hurts other films. Fun, but certainly not high art. Was Scorsese right about it's not cinema? Was Scorsese right? Well, here's the thing. A lot of people get their knickers in a twist when they hear Scorsese talk about this, but there's a kernel of truth to what he's talking about. And it's not that Marvel movies are not cinema. Of course they're cinema. The complexities involved in making a gigantic blockbuster like a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or whatever the case is it is filmmaking. It is cinema. It is filmmaking. It is modern cinema and filmmaking at its highest form, at its best in terms of, special effects and characters and the big, gigantic blockbusters. Do you know what I mean? Of course it's cinema. But I think again, in this 0 to 100, 0 or 10, shit or great world we live in, what gets lost in Scorsese's sort of words is, of course, what I always talk about here on the channel, the nuance. And I think what Scorsese is basically saying is, they're making a lot of these things and they make a lot of money. And they get a lot of attention. And we are oversaturated with it. Scorsese is not a blockbuster filmmaker. Scorsese is more of it's not that, I have to be careful what I say because I'd have to read up on what Scorsese said again, because I know he's spoken out a couple of times, and I want to be able to. I'd have to read specifically what he said to form a full opinion on this. But from what I remember, because this has been something that's been said a couple of times throughout the last couple of years, is Scorsese is a guy that makes character-driven movies, right? Not plot-driven films. And all that essentially means is it's about the characters. It's about, the relationships between the characters, their arcs, their transformation. They're more character-driven movies as opposed to plot-driven movies, which are more about the characters reacting to the plot. It's the plot that is driving, the characters, right? It's the characters' decisions they make that drives the plot. It's all about the events that are happening and all that kind of stuff. And most superhero movies are plot driven. That doesn't mean you don't have character moments and there isn't a transformation, especially when you get 25 Marvel movies. Of course, you're going to have arcs and one person's not going to be the same person they were in, where they began as opposed to where they end. But when you take them, individually, yeah, they are very more the big, loud, blowhard at the party. And I think Scorsese comes from a certain era that cannot be overstated. He comes from a certain era of filmmaking, and he likes to make the movies he likes to make. And right now, these movies, the Marvel films, the superhero films, get a lot of attention. One could say all the attention. And the reason is because they make a lot of money. They make arguably all the money. Not all the money literally, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? So, but I get what Scorsese is saying in terms of, I don't agree that they're not cinema. I don't agree with that. But I get what he's saying in terms of the saturation, the oversaturation, the over-importance put on, these movies and how many there are and sort of the yeah, like I get it. If you're not that kind of a filmmaker, if you have no interest in making those kinds of movies, I get it. How, all the attention is going to all this shit and you've got to sort of fight to get, for your spot where at one time you didn't have to fight. I understand. Again, I'm giving a very Cliff Notes, surface level kind of response because I have to go back and read his, because I know he's not the only one that has spoken out about this. I know that Denis Villeneuve has talked a bit about it. I know that there's been a few others that have talk about, film and the state of filmmaking and all this kind of stuff. And so I'd have to go back and read, but I think there is some nuance. It doesn't surprise you that Marvel and DC fanboys, they do, because again, 0 to 100, you know what I mean? It's just the way they are. They just think that Martin Scorsese just doesn't like Marvel movies. It's like, no, I mean, maybe, I don't know, I'm not him, but that's not what I remember thinking when I read the article. I took it more as, this is a guy that is simply, sort of tired of the oversaturation of these movies. But at the same time, they make billions and billions of dollars. And there's a fan base out there. And apparently that fan base is just not getting tired of it. Yeah. But again, it's a very sort of weak answer I gave, and my apologies. But I gotta, it's because I take this stuff very seriously and because it deals with sort of film and I want to be sort of on point. I don't want to give you sort of a half-ass answer, even though I kind of did. I want to be able to sort of know, I got to go back and read what he said again, but that's a ballpark sort of version with how I feel about it. He's not a director that makes those films. And I think, but I do disagree that it's not cinema. No, it is. It is cinema. It's incredible cinema. But it's more plot driven than it is character driven. Overall, I'm not saying there aren't character moments, but the Marvel movies generally are not character driven movies. And I know some of you might think, oh yes, they are. There's lots of character moments and there's I get, read up on the difference between character and plot. And you'll find that, oh yeah, the Marvel movies are more plot-driven movies than they are character. Whereas Scorsese tends to make more character-driven movies, right? And he just probably feels that, he's getting left by the wayside in a lot of sense. A lot of those types of movies are not getting their sort of shine like they once did, because you got Marvel every 5 seconds or every weekend. There's a Marvel movie that's sort of sucking up life. And that's true. It is true. And yeah, there might be a little bit of spite there. I don't know, maybe. But I disagree with him that it's not cinema. It is. But I got to read that again. Sinclair Crypto sends in $4.99, says, Dave, in order for most anticipated for you in 2022, what is your order of Avatar 2, Halloween Ends, and Wakanda Forever? Well, again, I couldn't care less about Wakanda Forever. I haven't seen Black Panther. Just don't care about those movies. So Wakanda Forever, I won't see. Avatar, I'm more amped for Avatar 2 than I am Halloween Ends. So it would be, first would be Avatar 2, then Halloween Ends, then Wakanda Forever. That's where I would put that. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Christopher Ruggiero sends in $1. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that very much. Vince again follows up with $9.99. Says, I think it'd be interesting if they remade Nightmare to leave it open-ended as to whether or not Freddy was guilty. Oh my God, did the parents kill an innocent man? Thoughts? That'd be cool. I'd be down for that. But then whether or not he was guilty, but then he is guilty because he's killing everybody in their dreams. So technically, does it matter? I get that so he wasn't guilty when he was alive because he was framed for a crime he didn't commit. Okay, that's cool. He was burned alive, let's say. Okay. That's cool. Ooh, man, they burned an innocent man. But then he comes back as a dream demon and murders all their children. So he's kind of guilty anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, and I get that he's getting revenge on being burned alive but that's what he was doing anyway, kind of, in some ways. I get what you're saying. It's an interesting story beat. An interesting kind of story beat that might be interesting to explore a little bit. I could see that. But if he's going to end up killing kids anyway in their dreams in violent, horrible, disgusting ways, I don't feel empathy for him anymore. But I don't know. We'll see. But that's interesting. Jennifer Hammond sends in $4.99. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. The Critical Joker sends in $4.99. Says, hey, Dave, is it possible to watch your film Halloween the Night He Came Back anywhere? Sadly, it's no longer on YouTube. The film was phenomenal, by the way. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. No, it is not available on YouTube right now because, unfortunately, the audio was all out of sync. This was about 6 months ago, maybe not that long ago. Somebody had said to me that the audio was out of sync. And I don't just mean a little out of sync. I mean like a couple of minutes out of sync. I don't know what happened. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened on a video that's been up for like 6 years. But I watched it here in my studio. I watched it on my phone, watched it on my girlfriend's phone, watched it on her computer, watched it just to kind of see maybe it was my connection. Nope. And I actually looked at the most recent comments and I'm like, this is like out of sync. And I'm like, okay, I can't leave this. Like so I have removed it because it's just, it's messy to me. It's unwatchable. Like I said, if it was a little bit of a kung fu movie, do you know what I mean? Like maybe the dialogue was like slightly out of sync by like, I don't know, a second or something. You might be able to watch it. You know what I mean? But this is like, there's a whole scene happening with dialogue that's not from that scene. It's that kind of out of sync. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable in putting it back into that condition. And I might upload it again at some point, but it's just not a priority for me right now. But thank you very much for the super chat, and I'm glad you enjoyed the film. Antonis Andriotis, I think is how you say that, sends in $10. Thank you very much, buddy. Really appreciate that. Who are your top 3 favorite horror villains? What Halloween movie do you think people love and people hate? I've been watching your channel since 2020, I believe. Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Antonis. I think that's how you say it. Antonis, am I saying that right? I think so. Or Antonis, maybe? Antonis? My 3 favorite horror villains. Well, I got to go Michael, Freddy, Jason. I mean, that's just going to be right there. What Halloween movie do you think people love and people hate? I think people love the first one, and I think people hate Resurrection and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. But I think more people hate Resurrection than hate Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. For whatever reason, I think Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is starting to gain a bit of a cult following, a bit of a sort of an interesting kind of cult status as of late. So yeah, those are my answers, man. And thank you very much for the thank you very much for the super chat, and thanks for being here and watching, man. Really, really appreciate that. All right, 1 second. Oh my goodness, a couple of super chats. Got that one. A very generous 50-pound super chat comes in from Jonathan Grant. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Says, Dave, I just want to thank you for your videos. I really enjoy them. You make a lot of sense. I haven't been good lately. Oh no, that's not good, man. Living with my sister who makes me feel like crap because of my stroke. I suffer from anxiety. Thank you, sir. Oh, well, that's not good, Jonathan. Well, if your sister is watching, I don't know who your sister is, but if what you say is true, sis, go easy on him. Go easy. He's not feeling well. Be the support that he needs. Be the support that Jonathan needs. And go easy on him. Go easy on him. You had a stroke. I hope you're doing okay, my man. It's great to see you here. Rest up. Take it easy. Don't do anything strenuous. Take some time. Take some you time. Allow yourself to just kind of breathe, smell those roses, maybe go for a bit of a walk, just kind of decompress and try to take and allow sort of just, you know what I mean? Just kind of take it all in, kind of relax. And if my videos help with your anxiety, that's amazing, dude. That's really amazing. And sis, go easy on the guy, man. Go easy on the guy. Be the sis that you need to be. And thank you for the very generous super chat, dude. I really appreciate that very much. Antona sends in another super chat of $15. Thanks, buddy. Says, are you hyped for Indiana Jones 5 coming out next summer? Yeah. What's your favorite Indiana Jones film? For me, it's Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Oh, it's your favorite, is it? Interesting. That's my least favorite. My favorite Indiana Jones film is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The best Indiana Jones film, I think, is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it has always been a favorite of mine. Like, Temple of Doom and Raiders are basically neck and neck for me. But I always give Temple of Doom kind of the slight edge because of the absurdity of it. It's so bonkers and crazy, and the action just never stops, and it's crazy. It's crazy. So Temple of Doom, I always get a really, a real kick out of watching, and that rope, and the suspension bridge scene, and the Molaram, prepare to meet Kali in hell. It's great. I love it. It's Molaram Sudaram, Molaram Sudaram. I fucking love that movie. So it's definitely my favorite, even though I know it tends to be people's least favorite. Well, Crystal Skull aside. But yeah, so my favorite by just a hair would probably be Temple of Doom. But Raiders is fucking classic, man. Raiders is probably the best Indiana Jones movie. For me, my least favorite is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It came out in 2008 when I was 29. So I was already, a full-fledged adult by that time. So there were a lot of things in Crystal Skull that I did not like. So I'm hoping that Indiana Jones 5 with James Mangold behind the camera in the director's chair, that we get something that is more reminiscent of the original three, the original Indiana Jones trilogy, than we got with Crystal Skull. But we shall see. We shall see. All right, I got to get going here in a minute, so let me see if I can get these. David Lee Barron, $4.99, says, Dear Dr. Pichet, how does one get film investors to invest capital into a film production? Is there a general process to it, or how is it done? Oh, dude. Well, look, most production companies and studios do not accept unsolicited material. They will not accept you soliciting to them, basically, is what I'm trying to say. There may be a small independent production company in your area that you may be able to contact, and maybe they would have a read of your treatment or your script or something. That's always possible. But generally speaking, it's getting yourself involved in the community, in the filmmaking community, meeting people, and then it's who you know, and then somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who puts in a good word for you, and away you go. There's a reason why I right now cannot call up Netflix and go, "Hey, yeah, my name's Dave McRae. I just wondered, have you seen? Yeah, I just what you can't do that because if you could do that, everybody would be doing that, and it's just not practical. You just can't do that. So, I would put it out of your mind, thinking that you could just call up somebody and say, "Hey, can you read my treatment?" Of course, it doesn't hurt to try and do that if you want. Knock yourself out. Who knows, right? Stranger things have happened. Stranger things. But generally, it's really about just making those connections, getting yourself involved in the filmmaking community in your area and making those connections. It's possible that you could do your due diligence to find some sort of angel investor or some sort of producer or some maybe angel investor that's got capital to burn, and he wants to invest in your, in your movie, and here's $100,000, knock yourself out. But that's easier said than done, because if you want to go the angel investor route or the investor route, like, Shark Tank, that kind of stuff, you got to have a portfolio, you got to have a lookbook or some sort of, thing that can prove to, why would I, because I'm investing in you. I want to make money. I want to make my money back and then some. You have to convince me that you're going to do that for me. And it's not going to happen just on a treatment, unless it's some multi-billionaire that's just got the cash to burn, and handing you $100,000 is like handing, like me handing you $5 or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, it depends, but generally speaking, my advice would be get involved in the filmmaking community, make the connections as best you can, and work up that way. And then, you might get to know people who know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. You know what I mean? That can happen too. But generally speaking, if you just want to be a writer, then you got to be a good writer. But if you want to be a filmmaker and a director and somebody who makes movies, you have to have films in your portfolio. You can't just have ideas. You have to have films. That's why Billy was so important. We didn't just make It's Me, Billy for the hell of it. We made It's Me, Billy, the quality we made it at for our portfolio. We wanted to use it as a portfolio piece to say, hey, look at what we can do with $60,000. It's a narrative piece as well, right? And that's very important too, because a lot of investors and producers want to see, well, how do you handle a narrative piece? I want to see a narrative movie from you so I can see how you direct a movie. What is this movie? It's a movie you wrote and directed. Okay, great. Let me watch it so I can see your style. So I can see, how you handle the actors, how you handle the camera and all that kind of stuff in terms of, where you get your DP to place the camera, all this kind of shit. I could go on and on and on and on. But I would say that in order to get investors to invest in a film production, you've got to get them to believe in you, and you got to have a portfolio. So start making movies. That's what I have to say to that. All right. Carterman7 sends in $25. Thank you, Carterman. Says, Dave, what role do you think Kyle Richards will have in Ends? I read she didn't film for very long and that hers is more of a bit part. Yeah, we didn't see her in the teaser trailer. It's just a teaser. I haven't heard much about her. I would like to, I hope her part is more than it is in Halloween Kills, to be honest with you, but I haven't heard much. I really haven't heard much, so I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I don't really know. It's a very good question. I don't know, because we really hear this focus on Lori, Allison, and Corey. Where Lindsay fits into all that, I don't really know. Unless she's just going to be there again. Somebody who didn't leave Haddonfield and she gets caught in the crossfires and that's where she is again. I mean, that's entirely possible too. I don't know. It's a really good question, dude. I'm not sure. I just hope that she has more of a I don't mean she's like the main, but I hope that she has more of a part. And if she dies in a blaze of glory, sacrificing herself to save Allison or Lori or something, not just some weak ass exit like Tommy did in Halloween Kills. That's what I'm hoping for. Andrew Stevens sends in $10, says, as Frank from the Slaughtered Lamb would say, for the sexy Halloween fanatics in the chat here. Well, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Yes, for the sexy every Halloween fan in the chat room right now is extremely sexy. You're all sexy. So when you leave here today and you strut out into the world, when you strut out into your last weekend of July, it's the last weekend of July, folks. When you strut out into your last weekend of July, strut with some Halloween sexiness. You have to have some Halloween sexiness. I want there to be some Halloween sexiness. That's all I will say. Whatever that means, I have no idea. No idea. Let me see. Jonathan Grant sends in £5 and says, Dave, you know what I'm going to ask? I don't know. Can you get a trick or treat, motherfucker? Thanks, dude. And the chat room for the support. Oh, okay, yeah. Hey, Mikey, trick or treat, motherfucker. That's kind of how he says it. But then I usually exaggerate and go, trick or treat, motherfucker. Can you imagine if he said it like that? It's like, what? Calm down. Oh, that's terrible. It's not only is that terrible, it's when Michael becomes emasculated. When Busta Rhymes is in the outfit and he's like poking Michael in the chest. Oh, Michael Myers, you're not. Oh, Michael Myers, motherfucker. Whatever he says, it's like, what? And Michael just turns around and walks away. He literally just turns around and walks away. What are you doing? You're just turning around and walking away. It's incredible. Vince sends in another $1.99, says, have you seen The Offer with Miles Teller? It's 2 thumbs up. I have not seen The Offer with Miles Teller. Let me just do a quick Google search of this. I think I know the movie you are talking about, though. It's a miniseries. It's not a movie. So clearly, I am not thinking of the same thing. I've not seen it, dude, but thank you for the recommendation. Is it on Netflix or Prime or wherever? I will make sure to. I'll make sure to check that out. I like Miles Teller. All right, let me see if I can get a few non-super chat ones. Rob Thidoff says, Dave, hypothetical here. Let's say Harrison Ford was Sheriff Brackett instead of Charles Cyphers in 1978. Your thoughts? Back then? Yeah, sure, why not? I could see it. He'd be about the same. Well, actually, he'd be younger. Did you guys know that Charles Cyphers was only 39 in Halloween 1978? He looks like he's like knocking on 50. Or in his early 50s. He looks like, I don't know what it is. I always thought that Brackett was in his early 50s. He's not even 40. I'm 4 years older than Sheriff Brackett was in Halloween 1978. What? What? It's true. Harrison Ford, sure. He would have been 31, 2, 3, 4, 5. He would have been 36. I don't know. I can't see it. I can't see it. But maybe. I don't know. I can't really see it. Maybe because he's too handsome. I don't know. But who knows? Let me see here. Busta Rhymes Forever. Busta Rhymes Forever is in the chat and says, Busta Rhymes is the best, Dave. I can't agree with your anti-Busta Rhymes opinions. Well, that's okay because you have a name that says Busta Rhymes Forever. You are entitled to say that Busta Rhymes is the greatest thing that has ever happened to the Halloween franchise. That Freddy is a misunderstood character. That he's one of the greatest characters in the history of the Halloween franchise. You are entitled to think that, my man, and I cannot take that away from you. I will not take that away from you. I, on the other hand, think he is dog shit. Dog shit. But that's me. That's me. That is me. Yeah, MAGA Cat. It's the 70s, Dave. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, he was 39, looked 85. David Lee Barron, $1.99 says, thoughts on King Creole? Oh, no. Excuse me, the water. The song or the movie? The song or the movie. I like the song a lot. Haven't seen the movie in quite a few years, so I have to watch it again, but I remember liking it. It's one of Elvis's better movies, to be honest with you. Elvis didn't do that. I mean, there's a few movies that he did that was okay. Or that were okay. There's a few movies that were okay. And King Creole is one of them. Kind of like a James Dean kind of thing. But the rest of his movies, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I mean, some are better than others, like I said. And did you know that a young Kurt Russell was in one of Elvis's movies? I forget what movie it was, but I think he had to kick Elvis in the shin or something like that. Very young Kurt Russell. Yeah, he's like 12 or something. It's crazy. Okay, I think I got all the super chats. Have I got all the super chats? I think I did. My apologies again for those that maybe were sending in non-super chats and I didn't get to them. I mean, I shouldn't have to, apologize. It should go without saying why I pay focus to the super chats. Obviously, they are paid questions. So obviously, they take priority for obvious reasons. It's not personal. That's just business. That's how it's done. And we had a lot of people in the chat room today, which is great. I think you guys are awesome. And a lot of super chats came in, which is awesome. Thank you again, everybody. I really appreciate that. But I think that's going to wrap it up for me because it is 2 hours. So that is going to do it for me here on this Q&A Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Here on this Q&A Friday, thank you to my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Shore, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber for doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in, of course. Really appreciate those. And to the non-super chats, I appreciate you sending them in, and I was able to answer a few of them. Not as much as I would have hoped, but I still was able to answer a couple. But never stop sending those non-super chats in because every now and then, depending on when I go live, it might be at a time where there's maybe not as many people in here, and it might be your opportunity to capitalize on a non-super chat question. I can answer it. I usually do that. And of course, if you want to join my Patreon as well, it's like a hair in my mouth or something. Cat hair. If you want to join my Patreon, we have live shows that are much more intimate and smaller, and you get more one-on-one time with me. So that's an option there too, if you want to think about that. But anyways, yes, that is going to do it for me. You guys and gals are amazing, but you know that. You know it. You know you're amazing. That's going to do it for me. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks. A great rest of your weekend. And I will be back soon. Maybe with a video. You never know. That's going to do it for me. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. There are my links right there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.